Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ English. Let's look into a very fascinating yet scary topic from GS Paper 3, sea level rise, melting of glaciers, overall global warming, because we are talking about West Antarctica. Yes, we are looking into the Thwaites Glacier. Now this Thwaites Glacier is also known as the Doomsday Glacier. The way it's melting, and if the melting doesn't slow down, it could mean a devastation for the entire world. Significant rise in the sea level, a complete submergence of coastal areas, littoral islands, and partial submerging of almost many regions the world over. So what is going on? Well, the Doomsday Glacier is the largest and the fastest melting glacier in the world. It covers about 1.9 lakh square kilometer area. That's roughly the size of Great Britain. And why is it called the Doomsday Glacier? Because if it collapses like the way it's crumbling down now every year, it will definitely cause a massive increase in global sea level. The increase in water means a natural submergence of land. So here on the map, we can have a broad idea about the location of the Thwaites Glacier. But today, this topic is more into what's the innovative solution that scientists have finally found out to not stop completely, but to slow down the melting rate of this glacier. Is that scientific innovation even possible? Let's look into that. Now, locationally, as I just said, the Thwaites is located in West Antarctica. You can see the location right here. And as I said, it is one of the largest and the quickest melting glaciers across the world. It already contributes to 4% of global annual sea level rise. Now, there's a reason why so many countries were rattled and worried when America, US under President Trump decided to withdraw from the Paris Agreement. Why? Because under Paris Agreement, we have committed not just to create our nationally determined contributions to control carbon emission, but also because under Paris Agreement, which is a legally binding treaty for all the member countries, we promised that we shall, as a global community, control the increase in average global temperature to well below 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius compared to the pre-industrial level. But America walked out. Followed by America, many more countries were confused whether is this legally binding treaty actually going to be effective? Previously, under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, the 1997 Kyoto Protocol was also not a very successfully created structure. Yes, now repeatedly developed countries running away from their carbon finance responsibility, showing their back towards the Tropical Forest Forever facility, not committing to paying the developing countries in order to cope with climate disaster or to move towards the renewable sector shows the weakening and the ossifying structure of all these global commitments, and now the realities for everyone to face. Already this glacier is contributing to 4% annual sea level rise. And if it collapses completely, it would mean global sea level shall shoot up by 65 centimeters, about 5 meters. That means with every 1 centimeter rise in sea level, many more people, say millions of people, are now confronting the threat of coastal flooding. If you remember, we had discussed about coastal flooding as we were looking into the Sundarbans, West Bengal, as we were looking into the Bhitarkanika, Odisha. I had mentioned to you that another very important global agency, IUCN, that's headquartered in Switzerland, International Union for Conservation of Nature, yes, the one that creates your red data list, the red list. That's the committee which had said that in India, there are certain regions which are very vulnerable to climate change. One of these regions, apart from Western Ghats and the Trans-Himalaya, was the Sundarban. I was talking to you about mangroves and how they protect the coastal area. But today, if this glacier melts, then imagine how many people living in the coastal zones, in the littoral islands, will be exposed to complete submergence, a loss of human life, a loss of culture, a loss of infrastructure. And the collapse could also destabilize West Antarctic ice sheet. That means further worsening the global sea level rise level. So this is the immediate threat that the whole world is facing right now. Why is the Doomsday Glacier melting so much? Why is the melting happening at such a quick pace? Naturally, the biggest reason is climate change, the increase in average global temperatures with a very high amount of carbon and greenhouse gas emission. Why? Naturally, because countries could not really commit to reducing their carbon emission as much as was envisaged under the Kyoto Protocol and later the Paris Agreement. Yes, it was never achieved. Now, all these are anthropogenic causes created by human action where carbon emissions are so high that in general, it leads to phenomena like such as longer summer, much heated summer period. This also reminds us of the Arctic Circle and the controversy around that. Now, how the melting of ice in the Arctic has once again opened up many more shipping lanes to the Arctic. And then what's happening? Countries like Russia, China, including President Trump's demand for Greenland, all these are stemming from the fact that now these polar caps are much more accessible. Today, same thing is happening here. Yes, carbon emission leads to global warming. Then warm ocean water will keep on flowing under the floating ice shelf. What does that mean? The ice is continuing to melt from inside. And the glacier also rests upon. Now, if you see a glacier, that's a huge chunk of ice, it is also floating. It is keeping its position stable by being rested on a bedrock that usually slopes downwards below the sea level, making it much more vulnerable to such hot or such warm ocean currents. But here what happens? The ice itself acts like a barrier, a brace holding the glacier back. Tomorrow, in any case, if this barrier gets weak, what happens? If the barrier itself becomes weak, then naturally the glacier flows faster into the sea. And the more it corresponds with the warmer ocean currents, the higher the chances of the underlying ice base melting down. The more it melts, yes, the glacier keeps on crumbling. The ice discharge from the glacier has now doubled. It has been increasing in volume, say, in the last 3 decades. That's over a period of 30 years broadly. And that's why we are seeing such a big risk here in the Thwaites or the Doomsday Glacier. Now, what do scientists say? Scientists are saying that the collapse may happen in another 200 to 900 years, but it could definitely happen sooner. The way global warming is on the rise and the way the glacier has been melting down, some studies are also saying that this collapse can be prevented. Still, we aren't too late. Much damage has happened, but then in future, the melting could be slow if the right actions are taken to mitigate the problem. But many more groups of scientists believe that it is a very, very, romanticized vision. It probably will not happen and the glacier melt will continue to happen. But today, a group of scientists have created a very innovative solution. What's the solution? Now, this definitely reminds me of the Sahara Desert, of the countries in the Sahel region in Africa. Remember when I spoke to you about how these countries are very, very prone to desertification. Many of them are now becoming arid, leading to food insecurity, civil wars, displacement, hunger. Yes, so what was the initiative to prevent desertification? The Great Green Wall of Sahara. Similarly, when we spoke about the Aravalli Hill controversy in India, when the government said 100 meters and above is Aravalli, below that is not Aravalli, and that's when we discussed that no, that's not appropriate, because after all, Aravalli is a biodiverse hotspot. Plus, it also prevents the nearby states, especially Delhi NCR, from desertification. Similar argument is being used here as well. Broadly the same logic. Now, the scientists are saying we will create a big 150-meter tall and about 80 kilometers long wall, a barrier, a curtain or a shelter. This shall be created across the seabed in front of the Doomsday Glacier. How will it help? Now, this wall will be created underwater as an underwater barrier right enveloping the Doomsday Glacier. Why? Because now with this wall, whenever the warm ocean currents try to approach the glacier, they will not be able to reach the glacier. This wall will act like a blockade, and this will therefore slow down the melting of the glacier. Even if we cannot stop the glacier from melting, because there are many more reasons behind glacier melt, the overall increase of temperature is a major cause across the world. But at least stopping the warm ocean currents from touching this glacier would reduce the pace of glacier collapse in a major way. That's the innovative solution the scientists are talking about. So what's your opinion of that? Do you think this solution could actually help, or do you think it's really a very you can say El Dorado kind of situation that we are believing in, and the damage is actually irreversible? So you can let me know your comments, your opinions that are non-political on this issue. A quick practice question here. With reference to the Thwaites Glacier, look at these statements. 1. It is located in East Antarctica and is one of the slowest moving glaciers in the region. 2. Floating ice shelf attached to the glacier helps slow down the glacier's flow into the ocean. And 3. The warm ocean currents melting the glacier from below are one of the major causes of it being unstable. Which of these statements here are valid? To confirm your answer and to know more such interesting details, facts about UPSC, do subscribe the Telegram channel by scanning the QR code from here. And a quick reminder for all our students who are really ambitious about their UPSC exam. Well, being ambitious is great, but that has to be backed up with lots of hard work in the right direction. And that's why we at StudyIQ are right now announcing a limited period offer. That's a flat 50% sale on all the programs 2026 SIP, Success in Prelims, 2027 and 2028 GS Foundation courses. If you join now, today, with code SPLIVE, then slightly more discount on existing flat 50% off, but limited period offer. So join today and make your preparation super professional with a guarantee of selection in UPSC. Thank you.